Welcome to a special report of Cannabis Coast to Coast News. I'm the executive producer, Jimmy Young, and the founder of PCM TV. And I'm so happy to have our hemp reporter, our go-to hemp guy himself, Kerry Hinkle, along board for this special report because he's been in the trenches, not just in the hemp industry over the last, half dozen years or so, but now his company, Bayou City Hemp, is based in Houston, Texas. So has the party started in the halls of Bayou City Hemp today because of Greg Abbott vetoing the hemp bill at, I think that the timing was like 11:20 p.m. Eastern,
Yes.
20 minutes before the deadline. And Kerry, thank you for allowing me to listen in to your Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick's reaction. But first, let's get the reaction from your company. There's relief more than anything else for the hemp industry in Texas today.
Yeah, that's right, Jimmy. I'll say at about 11:21, we all were cracking open our THC beverages in celebration when Governor Abbott vetoed that bill. And, really, I think one of the headlines is just common sense prevailed. SB3 was one of the most poorly written attempts at quote unquote regulating the industry that has ever been attempted in any state legislature. I think it's one thing as states decide, do we want 5 milligram, 10 milligram, 50 milligram caps? Where can they be sold? Regulation by definition means that you lose your ability to sell in some form or fashion. What SB3 was trying to do was completely wipe out any trace amounts of THC in any product. And that hurts the farmer. You literally cannot grow the crop without some trace amounts of THC. And so that's farmer all the way through to a pharmacist that may want to sell a CBD topical, to a mother that just giving full spectrum CBD to a child. Like this was an attempt at reining in some bad actors. This was trying to ban everything in one fell swoop. And thankfully, Governor Abbott prevailed with some common sense and vetoed a terrible, terrible bill.
And the night before, he signs the extension of the medical marijuana bill in his state. So, all of a sudden, this guy, Governor Abbott, I don't want to call him a hero for the community, but my goodness, this was a major weekend in Texas when it comes to this plant medicine, which is how we always refer to it here. I don't like using the M word. And meantime, if I had taken a scorecard of every time Dan Patrick, the Lieutenant Governor, used the M word in his little conference, my goodness gracious, it had to be well over 100 times. And I'm certain I heard him say, if you don't want me here, then vote me out of office. And that must be just, celebration to those in Texas who want this guy gone. What's next now in Texas? Is the Senate going to take this up again? Is there going to be, a pay-per-view UFC fight between Greg Abbott and Dan Patrick? I'd pay to watch that.
Yes, I would too. I would be first in line to watch that one. But yeah, so what happens now is we head to special session. So that's going to start on July 21st. In Governor Abbott's veto letter, he mentions a few principles that he would like to see applied to what a potential regulatory bill would look like. And that includes only selling it in establishments that are 21 and over, some standardized truth in labeling and manufacturing practices. Strangely, some bans on buying the products on Sundays and only being able to sell them from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. Central. And by the way, Jimmy, a lot of those provisions are related straight from the TABC code or the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission. So, they're looking at just selling these products just like liquor is. And, we have some pushback on that and some things that we'd like to see tweaked, Jimmy. But I think in general, when you say like, okay, we want to keep these products out of the hands of kids, and we answer with, let us sell where liquor is sold, I think that can be a common sense approach to what I think really needs to happen in the state. So again, it's not perfect to do it that way. There's some gripes and, they want to ban on-premise consumption, and we have a bar that dispenses THC beverages on tap. I don't want to see that bar close. We've had way more incidents with people consuming beer at our bar than we've ever had incidents of people consuming THC beverages. So there's definitely some tweaks to be made. But again, this is a deep breath and a win for sanity and pro-business, pro-veteran. I think one thing, Jimmy, that I'm looking out for when we go to special session is during regular session, all of these factions of the hemp industry hired their own lobbyists and had their own piece. They had the vape guys over here, the THC flower, Delta 8. We were, more on the beverage specific side of things. And we were all in our own corner advocating for our own company. And SB3 was so poorly written and so bad that everybody came together and said, we have to oppose this. And so what I'm worried about now is, as we go into special session, does everyone go back into their own corners again? Do we lose the unity we had during this last month? And now we're back into infighting and worried about, well, if I can't sell my 100 milligram gummies, to gas stations, then I don't want to support a bill. And so, that's something that I'm trying to use this momentum to keep unity here with the industry.
That's right. And there's so much more to talk about, Kerry, but we're running short on time. So I'm going to wrap this up. But I promise the people that do watch Cannabis Coast to Coast News on a regular basis, we will be keeping you up to date on what is going on, because this is a mess that the federal government created in 2018 when the Farm Bill was passed and no regulations were in place. They just kind of threw it out there and said, just keep it under 0.3% THC and it's legal. Well, how's that worked out? It's kind of like the social media companies. They gave the keys to the asylum to let them decide what makes community guidelines and what doesn't. In other words, you could censor your own content. This country, we have a long way to go and get back to where we were, and no finger pointing on this program, because we have to understand, Kerry, you said it, we're all in this together and we need to find common ground. And that's really what this country is all about. For Kerry Hinkle, I'm Jimmy Young. This has been a Cannabis Coast to Coast special report, and we'll have more in the days to come.
I think I messed up. Did you know there's a place that covers all the cannabis news you need? Welcome to Pro Cannabis Media, your go-to for all things cannabis. PCM is the CNBC of weed, bringing you the latest news and talk shows with a twist. We've got 16 state correspondents and multimedia journalists from around the US and Canada.
Hey everybody, it's Brandon Jones with Be Green Distribution with the Missouri Cannabis Report.
I'm Karen Black from Greenfinger Consulting with the Arizona Cannabis Report.
I'm Amy Carter from Michigan Weedsters.
Andrew Behringer here reporting from Washington, D.C.
Debbie Fazy with the Canadian Toke of the Week.
It all started back in 2018 when founder Jimmy Young kicked off the In the Weeds podcast. His mission? Documenting the fight to end cannabis prohibition. Fast forward to today, and we've got Cannabis Coast to Coast with Elena Pinto, delivering the nation's only TV-style cannabis news show.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Cannabis Coast to Coast, PCM TV's weekly roundup of industry news from California to New York. I'm Elena Pinto.
As of August 2024, PCM has racked up over 1.2 million views and 14.5 million impressions on our YouTube channel. With 15,000 subscribers and growing, our reach is spreading like wildfire. PCM's website, YouTube, Rumble, Discord, Roku, Twitch, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and even our very own PCM TV app. Get your cannabis news fix with Pro Cannabis Media. We're here to keep you informed and entertained. Stay tuned and stay lifted.